We're warming up.
Getting ready.
Oh!
They're filming. Oh gosh.
Ooh, 38. Mountain biking is excellent.
Commencal has a long history of putting racing before anything else. This approach has given them presence, wins, and a degree of prestige many brands can only dream of, which isn't bad for a direct-to-consumer brand. With the Commencal Meta V5, they've made two versions, the race-ready 29er, which features slightly less travel, and this, the SX. More travel, a smaller rear wheel, but still the same DNA at its core, along with a font that neatly matches some well-placed cable ties. We can explain that later.
The Commencal Meta SX V5 is a real departure from the previous version, and that mainly comes down to its suspension layout.
Yeah, right. So they moved away from a single pivot linkage-driven system to their V4S, which is a dual link layout. What did that feel like on the trail, Henry?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a really well-sorted system. We're all really impressed. It managed to combine excellent small bump, mid-stroke, and end-stroke. And to me, it felt not dissimilar to that Yeti Switch Infinity system, albeit with maybe a bit more ramp up.
So would you say that it was really good in the bike park? Would it be a good race bike, perhaps?
Well, this is it. Commencal call it their bike park shredder bike, and they've got the full 29 denoted as their race bike. But this would kind of be good at everything.
So it's not a race bike, even if it does happen to go quickly. Commencal apparently just can't resist making a bike for those that wish to go fast. The long rear center, steep seat tube, moderate reach, they all help when the trail turns uphill, especially when teamed with a high stack. Ultimately, this is a very comfortable bike to climb, but does it risk becoming a lethargic supercross slugger?
The Commencal on the climbs, thanks to its really high stack height, it's actually a very comfortable place to be. And to give it credit, it does track really well.
Right, so lots of grip, but maybe not enough support, not that efficient feeling.
Yeah, I would say so. For people that want a bike park bike or a lift access bike that they can do a lot of pedaling on, they're going to love this. But I think it doesn't necessarily have that taut, efficient feel that people that love to pedal will be seeking.
Surprise, surprise, the alloy bike made by the brand that puts most of its efforts into building downhill bikes isn't the fastest climber. Is that important for a bike like this? Should you care? Do we? This bike was never meant to be a cross-country bike. It's meant to be something that will get you to the top, eventually, before you can smash right back down. But is there more to this bike in terms of versatility than meets the eye?
So I think this bike actually has great race geometry because it's not the slackest, but it does have a tall stack height, which makes you feel centered and deep in the bike, so it gives you that confidence.
Absolutely. Although I would say for a bike that does offer so much confidence, if you're really going through hard turns, you can actually get quite a lot of flex out of this bike.
Right, so what's lost in flex comes back in comfort. This is a very comfortable bike to ride in the bike park.
For full runs, I think it's right up there with the Chromag, being the out and out most comfortable bikes on test. And compared to something like the Pole, which is another alloy bike, it is night and day in terms of feel. I would say though that one thing we didn't particularly like is this bike developed some really loud creaking right from day one. And I would say not from chain slap, but just pedaling around the car park, it was by far and away the noisiest bike.
So if you could forgive those creaks and groans, you do get the stability in the bike park, but you don't get that fork flop of the really slack bikes. And that's thanks to the steeper head angle and the tall stack that still gives the stability.
Yeah, this bike is so confident at higher speeds, but like you said, without feeling unwieldy on slower tech sections. One thing we did notice though, is if you're riding it through really fast chatter, when the bike gets back to full extension, it sometimes feels that it's got a bit of unwillingness to break into its stroke. Once it's in the stroke and moving, it's very supple, but there was something about getting it moving that had a bit of reluctance.
All in all, the Commencal is a very well-balanced bike front to back that didn't get pigeonholed into being too slack or too freeride or too this or too that. Riding it everywhere in the bike park just seemed easy and comfortable, hey?
Yeah, it's actually a remarkably solid all-rounder when it comes to descending.
Alright, so it's fast, direct, and comfortable, but absolutely not for racing. Jokes aside, the Commencal Meta V5 does paint a vivid picture of how different alloys or designs can give a bike a very different feel out on the trail. It's a world away from the harshness of the Pole Oni though. That said, both alloy bikes do make enough noise to live up to their metal musical namesakes.
Something that I really liked about the Commencal was that the shock was very accessible and also had things like The handlebars, it wasn't anything goofy, it was the things that I would actually buy. The grips were good, the stem was good. It was nothing too weird and everything was kind of as I'd have it personally.
Yeah, I would agree, but wasn't there something weird about the water bottle? I saw you had rigged up some sort of zip tie.
The water bottle placement is daft. So if you have it lower down with some cable ties, it does fit and it clears the linkage. If you have it higher up and you try and put a water bottle where the bolts are, it fouls on the piggyback of the shock. Commencal say that if you want a fiddle lock bottle cage, it negates this, but it's a ridiculous, they can make the bike any way they want. Well, we've done it bad, but you can fix it like this. It's a nonsense to me. And I think that it really didn't deliver for a bike that could be ridden all day. One thing I did like though, was that they've got the 1.5-inch head tube and they give the option of through the headset cable routing for those that like it, but for 99.9% of people that don't, it's still the regular internal.
Okay, and was there something else about the seat post? I mean, I found that it was tall enough for me, a 175 dropper. You, Kaz, Dario, you're a little taller.
I think that it's got a long insertion depth. I actually ran a post that was over 200 during some parts of testing for the pedal days, and it was great. Fox make a long dropper, just put it in. It's nonsense, and especially there are some brands that do adjustable droppers, and that's what a brand's got to do. It's got to choose the right OE parts, and I'd love to have seen it with a longer dropper.
We have here is a bike with great fundamentals and some silly executions. However, at the heart of the Meta SX is balanced geometry that'll give you the confidence to ride hard and fast, and with the knowledge that your weight will stay nicely centered. Also, let's not forget it's the second cheapest bike on test, and it's one of 3 bikes under $7,000 US. That's with a very solid spec, even if they did skimp on the bearings. So apart for those who have an aversion to putting thick black cable ties in their brand new premium mountain bike, who's this bike for?
So the Meta SX V5, who is this bike for? Somebody who wants comfort, great suspension, and quick handling.
Absolutely. Whilst this bike is a great all-round descender, I wouldn't say it's a true all-rounder. I think there'll be some people that want something that feels a bit snappier for the pedaling, and if you're not riding the lifts, you might want something that feels a bit more efficient.
We've confirmed that this is a bike that'll shine the harder you push and one that loves speed. But what exactly are its strengths and weaknesses?
I think the big pros for the Commencal is that it's got a great suspension system that lets you plow and pop. It's got dialed, balanced geometry, and also offers a good degree of comfort for a bike that can be ridden so hard.
And how about the cons? Well, you did have to bodge your own water bottle on there, and for people who are not so savvy with maintenance and stuff, we did have that creaking issue. There's definitely some concern about the longevity of the pivots and whatnot. And then there were our mixed feelings about the flex of the frame. Some of us liked it, it gave a little more comfort, but for somebody who wants like a precise tracking bike, this might not be the one.
Comfort machine, racer, enduro, freeride. Either way, the Commencal Meta SX is a very versatile descender, even if it perhaps isn't the most sprightly on the climbs. Whether it's downhill laps, big jumps, or riding blind tech faster than ever, the dialed geometry and support of the SX shouldn't be understated. It's a strong showcase to how far suspension feel has come, as well as being somewhat of a throwback in terms of bearing longevity and bungled water bottle cage. If you could forgive that, the sheer comfort, balance, and shock performance of the SX make it worthy of your consideration.